I'm LeMaster. Welcome to my Common Sense Living podcast. Get a pen and paper if you like, because I'm gonna give you some interesting things to hear. So first, let me advertise for my Perfect Aminos. This is the link that you can buy if you so choose to. It's amino proteins that if you have all your protein drinks and whatever, if you don't have the aminos, you're not gonna be able to use the protein. So I started using it last year after my sister and I compared our crepey skin, and 2 months later, my skin wasn't crepey any longer. So of course, I believe in it. And that's why I can put my name to it and suggest that you try it if you like. The other thing I would like to throw out there is my book, because you got to advertise yourself, right? So this is my book, Heaven Sent, Listening to My Inner or Your Inner Voice. And if you're interested, it's on Amazon, and here's the link for that as well. It's about my many spiritual experiences, and some of them I think are really kind of cool. Well, actually, I think they're all cool, but some better than others. So today, I want to talk about the trip I took last weekend, and I went to Grand Junction, Colorado. I was invited to do a speaking engagement there, and it was a healing conference. And when I travel, I like to wear my scrubs because they're comfortable and they've got pockets and roomy, right? So anyway, I left San Antonio on my way to Dallas, and there's a storm. So the airplane scoots around the storm, right? Cost us 20 minutes delay. So by the time we got to Dallas and unloaded, they couldn't get my luggage on the plane going to Grand Junction. So I went to Grand Junction, and my clothes didn't come until the next day. Oh, what is a person supposed to do? They're speaking the next day. My goodness, all my supply things weren't there. Some were, some weren't, because something told me to, tuck this away, tuck that away, and as a carry-on. And I did. So all things come to you, happen to you the way they're supposed to. And in my particular case, everybody said, boy, I'm handling it so well. I said, well, what's the alternative? The pilot could have gone through the storm, and maybe I wouldn't have made it here. So I was grateful that he went around the storm. It all worked out. It's a healing conference. I'm a nurse, and I wore my scrub top. So was I pretty? No, but I was practical, and I had a nice message. I want to share two stories that impacted me while I was there. One was Brandy, and she lives in Grand Junction at the time anyway. And she was an Uber driver to make a little extra cash, right? So she's there, and gets a call from Jake. Jake wants a ride to this bar, the Olympia bar, whatever. So, okay, she picks him up and she drops him off there, and he doesn't get out. First off, when he got in on the left-hand side, which is not usual. They prefer you to get in on the right side, because when you exit the Uber, you're exiting on the sidewalk, not into traffic. So he got in on the left side, but okay. And she got to the Olympia, to the bar, and then he says he didn't want to be there. He wanted to go to the Sinclair station. And she said, negotiated that this is going to be another ride fee and all that. And so anyway, they head to the Sinclair station, and he's acting a little bit odd there, that he's not getting out. He seems kind of like he's unsure what he wants to do or what. And she said, hey, look, I'm just going to take you back to the bar. So they're headed back. And as they're headed back, he says, so are you carrying? And she said, what do you mean, a gun? He said, yeah. And she says, no, are you? And he said, yeah. And puts that gun, right up there into the back of her seat. And he says, I want you to drive to the desert. It's only 10 minutes away. And she's thinking, oh my, her wheels are spinning. She's going to be a dead goose, or she's going to have to do something to save her life. So this is all going through her head as she heads that way. She's got this great big bottle of water over here on her left side by the door. She puts that between her legs, unscrews the lid, unlocks her door, but his door is still locked. And then she throws it in the back of the seat, so he gets all wet and discombobulated. And she opens her door and rolls out. I don't know if the car was in drive yet or she'd put it in neutral. Anyway, he's still locked in the back seat. She rolls out. She runs to the nearest house, bangs on the door, and nobody answers because it's nighttime. Nobody's going to answer. And I believe she ran to the back of the house too and still banged and still nobody answered. And then she heard the sirens. So the police were on the way. And by then she gets out to the street and of course the car was gone. And she talks to the police, whatever. And they put out the APB or whatever for the car. And thank goodness that Uber has an Uber app that tracks your car. They found it in New Mexico. So come to find out, his name really isn't Jake, it's Alex something. And what really struck me was this man could have taken her life, and she is such a caring, forgiving person that talking about it helps her to heal from it. She even talked to him since he's incarcerated, or she went to see him. I'm not sure. I think she just talked to him. But she would like, when he gets out, that they both get on stage together and talk about that scenario. And I think that is so huge for her to even want to do that. And if that comes to pass, I just think it's awesome. Forgiveness, whatever. So we'll yet to see how that's going to work. I don't know when he gets out of prison. The other gal I'd like to talk about is Meg. Meg went to apply for a job and she got it. Oh, who wasn't ecstatic when you go for apply for the job and you got it right on the spot, right? So she get doing the job and she's like second in command at this, I don't remember what kind of job it's like, but she ordered and, they had accounts overseas and, $100,000 accounts and whatever. And she was managing all that. So in the 6 months that she was there, the boss started kind of getting interested in her, and pretty soon they started like dating, and he took her on a vacation, a business trip, whatever, nice swank places. And what girl doesn't want to be wined and dined like that? And she was really liking it. Well, then they decided to make it more serious and they moved in together and all, and she's on her phone and she's talking to somebody, and and he said, "Who are you talking to?" And she'd say, and he'd say, "Well, get off the phone. I want your attention." Things like that. So those kind of things started happening. So fast forward, he wanted to know where she was, who she was with, who she's talking to, this, that, the other thing. He was not a nice man anymore. He was very controlling. And she decided maybe she should get out of this relationship. It didn't sound very healthy for her, but how do you do that? Well, leave the particulars out, get to the point. She went to a safe house and a safe house and another safe house. She went to 8 different safe houses, and yet he still found her. Now, how did he know how to get her? He put a spyware app on her phone, so he knew who she was talking to and when she was talking to them and where they were. He put spyware app on her car, so he knew every move she made. And that's why she had to keep moving. Well, particulars, I don't know how it turned out. I don't remember, because I was just so wow. But the fact that she endured it, and for 7 years. And she said during COVID, she had thought that perhaps he had died. And come to find out, no, he's still alive. So chapter 2 coming, I don't know. I hope not, for her sake. And she's hoping that he didn't find some other victim, because he's just such an evil person. And turns out all his coworkers that worked for him were all drug dealers or, involved with the nefarious crew, let's put it that way. So 3 of the stories that I shared, it's about how your thoughts can create disease and it can heal disease. And it's true, it can. It's kind of like what you think about, you bring about. If you think, oh, poor pitiful me, and I'm going to get sick, I'm this or that, you're going to get sick because you invited it in. If you think that whatever you may have, well, first off, that you're not going to get anything. And that's how I do it. I haven't had the flu since 1968. I had in 1957, it was the pandemic flu, and I got it. 2 weeks later, I got it again. And then in 1968, I had the flu. And since then, I haven't had the flu. I've had a cold, felt under the weather at times, but I haven't had the flu since 1968. And part of that is because I refuse it. It's like I'm wearing a coat of armor with my thoughts, my beliefs, my words. I do not invite anything but benevolent things. Anything of benevolence is welcome in my circle, in my life, in my being. And that's how I believe. And it has worked well for me. You may want to try that. Maybe it works for you, maybe not, but you have to believe it. You can't just wish it or think it. You believe it. And like I said, for me, it works. I don't even get a cold anymore. I do have allergies, and it's to cats, and I have, I call it 6 cats in the house, and one's an in and out. So there's a total of 7. Number 8, something got her, and she ended up not being with us anymore. She was the mother of 3 of them. And anyway, so I don't get sick, and I believe I'm going to live a long time. And a lot of people might think that's a little bit wacky. I don't care what you or anybody else thinks. It works for me. So what works for you? What works for me? 2 different things perhaps, but first off, you have to believe in it. You have to know what you want. You have to want it bad enough, and you have to believe in it. And talk to yourself, talk to God. When you talk to yourself, in a way, you are talking to God, aren't you? Because you are a part of him, and he is a part of you. So with that about thoughts, I'm going to take you on a little journey back in history. 1966. Mary is a junior in high school, and she's doing just great. She's vice president of the class. She's on the cheerleading squad. She's in speech. She's this, that, and the other thing. Everything is going just rosy well for her. Well, her boyfriend comes back from college, and she got pregnant. And of course, she tells her parents, and then here comes the wedding. So now she's pregnant and she's married. And that's one of the ways that it worked back then. She goes to school one day. Principal calls her in his office and says, "Mary, is it true what I hear about you?" And she answered, "That I'm pregnant and married?" "Yes." And he says, "Oh, it's so sad. You had so much going for you here, but you can't go to the school anymore. You have to go across town to the school for naughty girls and misfit boys." And she's crushed. All her college dreams and everything, right down the tube, right? So she goes to the other school. She graduates. She has her baby in May of 1967. She has a little boy. And 7 months later, she was diagnosed with, oh my goodness, she goes in the hospital. She's got the right kidney is totally shriveled up, and the left one is at 50%. They give her at most 6 months to live. She said, 6 months? I've got a 7-month-old baby. This can't be happening. What? I'll never see him go to kindergarten. I'll never see him graduate. I won't see him get married. I won't have any grandchildren to hold. Oh, she's just devastated. So that night, the chaplain comes in, the hospital chaplain, and she starts asking her questions and whatever. And Mary's thinking, this isn't a typical chaplain by the questions that she's asking. And so the chaplain had asked her, "Mary, tell me, what happened the last 2 years in your life before you got sick?" And she said, "Well, I was a bad girl. I got knocked up, got pregnant with my boyfriend, and had to go to different school, and my life just went to pot." And she said that she couldn't, she's got a little boy, 7 months old, what's going to happen, And so the chaplain says, "She has an assignment for you. Mary, I want you to think several times a day. I want you to envision, using your thoughts, to visualize that you are holding your little boy's hand, taking him into his kindergarten class, and you go ahead and go into your classroom. And then you're going to visualize that you see him graduating from high school, and you see him getting married. And you can dream the speculation, embellish it, whatever, but visualize. And then you see him and his wife having your first grandchild. And you do that periodically throughout the day, several times a day, and you believe it, truly believe that you see that in your heart. Well, they came in to take her into surgery to take out the dried up, dead kidney. And lo and behold, that was coming back. The right kidney was coming back, and the left one was totally fine. The power of your thoughts. Now, if you don't believe that one, and there was one when I was in nursing school, and we talked about this one in class. There's a man laying in the hospital, dying of kidney cancer. So what do? Anybody been in the hospital or know somebody who's been in the hospital? They all day long, 8 hours, nobody comes to visit because they're working or have something else. And, maybe the visiting comes at night. So he lays there 8 hours a day, nothing else to do. So he reaches in to his liver, pulls out a cell, and he takes his imaginary toothbrush and he scrubs it clean. Nothing left on it. It's a nice clean. And he puts that one back in his liver and pulls out another one. And he scrubs that one clean. And he puts that one back in. And that's what he did all day long. Every day he did this. So when they go to check him the next time to see how his prognosis is, lo and behold, absolutely no liver cancer. Clear. That's called spontaneous remission. And what is spontaneous remission? What I just told you. It's God healing you because you believe. You believed in the power of what you can manifest for yourself through your higher power. And then your thoughts can also work the other way. This is a personal story. My father, about my father. My nephew was killed in 1991. He was 24 years old in a car accident. And it devastated my father. Grandson that's never going to grow up. He had all his hopes and dreams for this young man, and that's not going to come to fruition. And I don't think Dad ever spoke Matthew's name. My mom, my sister, and I, we talked about Maddie all the time. Boy, just over and over and over again. I don't even know how many months. And we got it out of our system, so to speak. But my father didn't. He kept it in. He kept it contained in his being. And 4 years later, he was diagnosed with glioblastoma on the left side of his head there. The worst of the brain cancers that you can get. Well, he died 3 months after diagnosis, and it was a month to the day before Mom and Dad's 50th anniversary. Now, the week before Dad died, he was on steroids. I don't remember at this point how long he was on them, a week, 2 weeks, I don't know, but they were working. He was getting better. He was able to eat whole pizza instead of by the bites. He was able to walk without aid. My sister said, it's a miracle. Oh, it's a miracle. And that was on Tuesday. And on Friday, he couldn't hold himself up in the wheelchair anymore, and I put him into bed. And I told my mom Saturday night, I said, I'm not going to be going to work on Monday. And he passed Sunday morning between 3 and 4 o'clock, something like that. I don't remember particular right now, but he passed on Sunday morning. And I was right. I didn't go to work on Monday. How did I know that? So the cancer ate my dad up because he couldn't let loose. He couldn't talk about it. He couldn't express his sorrow, his anguish that his only grandson was no longer alive. So those are 5 really great stories. How you can survive kidnapping at gunpoint, how you can get away from the person that is stalking you in a sense, that thinks that they own you, and how you can heal yourself with your thoughts, and how you can not use those powerful, positive thoughts, and it can kill you. So it was maybe short and sweet here, but those were the stories that I wanted to share, the 2 that I learned and the 3 that I gave as part of my speech. And I want to give a tidbit of advice, unasked for advice, but I didn't start this journey in my life until I was 72. And that's when I wrote my book. That's when I started this Common Sense podcast, Common Sense Living. And that's when I started my speaking career. And let me tell you, I have never been this happy in my life. I don't care what people think about me. I've been there, done that, whatever. I was always legal. I did try pot once, and it grabbed me in the third eye, and I couldn't stop laughing. Could have told me my mom died. I couldn't stop laughing. And I'm thinking, oh, something that's going to control me like that? Never did it again. Half an hour later, you couldn't get me to laugh. Just like, ooh, ha, funny. And then, whoo, not funny at all. So I didn't care much for that. And what kept me from doing hard drugs? I'm so proud to say this. I worked in the factory. Could have had any drug I wanted. Cocaine was a thing at the time. And I was 21. And I thought about it because I wanted to fit in. I wanted to be just like the rest of them. I wanted to be popular. And I thought, well, I could get it. I could afford to buy it. But what happens if I get a bad cut? Oh, then it goes in the paper that I died of a drug overdose. And I couldn't do that to my parents. I honored my parents enough that I could not embarrass them by taking the chance of dying from a drug overdose. Sad to say, kids don't feel like that way about their parents now. Now it's kind of like, oops, to their parents and do it anyway. And that's so sad. Our values just have gone to the pot. But I do believe they're coming back. It's just the pendulum swings, correct? So I hope you enjoyed my short episode today. And share it with a friend, somebody you know, and you'll find me wherever podcasts are, like Spotify and YouTube. And I'd really appreciate it if you would give me a good review and sign up. So until the next time, I'll sign off and say toodaloo. Thank you for tuning in to my Common Sense Living podcast today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm sure you learned something new. Please leave a kind review and share this episode with a friend. And be sure to subscribe yourself. You'll find me on iTunes, Spotify, and other platforms. And don't forget, we'll be here again next week with another insightful episode of Common Sense Living. I can hardly wait.